Okay, so the third part, or the third episode in this series of rambling about the Sopranos, in chronological order of the episodes. So now we're on episode 11 of season 1, and it is Nobody Knows Anything. And this is a big one. I've said this about a couple of previous episodes, but this is where the series really starts to hit its stride. You know, this is the introduction of a storyline which if you put aside Big P himself, then it really goes on for pretty much most of the rest of the series. You know, the whole fear about ratting, which multiple characters do, of course. That's really what this introduces. It's not just about Bump and Sarah himself. It's about the whole fears that they have in the modern world of loyalty being put aside in favour of, their own family's safety, their own safety and freedom. Yeah. So the quote is, why the fuck would pussy run? I mean, the guy's out of breath lifting his dick up to take a leak. That's actually better than what a lot of people have said about him. You know, wittier than a lot of people have said about him, Christopher Moltisanti. I'm quite impressed by his level of wit there. So the screenshot we've got is Tony and Mackenzie, and it is Mackenzie, of course it is. Yeah, where he tells Tony and about Bump and Sarah, and he just can't take it in. He's it causes immense health issues in these last couple of 3 episodes of the season for Tony. So what we got here? Continuity nod. Junior, already angry at Tony due to the latter's statements mocking him for his preference of going down on women, officially becomes the enemy civil war when Livia informs him of Tony and his capo's secret meeting at Green Grove. Yeah, that's Larry Barisi and I think Johnny Sack is involved in that in some way, isn't he? I think he's got his mother there, hasn't he? Yeah. Title drop. We haven't done one of these yet. The title is said twice during the episode. First by Paulie in relation to Big Pussy's back problems when he tells Tony a doctor found nothing wrong at the end of the episode by Tony in regards to Pussy's whereabouts. Yeah, that there's a whole fear that Paulie has kind of jumped the gun, isn't there? There's that great scene. A Death in the Limelight. Vin Mackenzie gets a lot of dialogue talking about his childhood trauma and feelings of inferiority after Tony repeatedly antagonises him. He eventually gets fed up after being arrested and jumps off a bridge in despair. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the more unceremonious suicides, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I've got this. There's certain words I'm almost scared of saying because of the whole, algorithm bullshit, which I'm not bothered about anyway. I'm not trying to monetize my channel, but Yeah. Kind of a thought I had actually. What if everyone just said all these naughty words? Would the algorithm have to censor everyone? And no one would make any money. That would, or would they just, would that be the end of all the censorship bullshit for difficult words? It is a load of bullshit. bullshit. There, yeah. See, there's a few naughty words in succession, isn't there? So yeah, this is, we don't see big pussy. Yeah, see, I'm saying it now. For the rest of the season. In fact, I think this was probably originally intended as the last time we saw him, on the basis that the suspicion that this would be the only season of the show. I've just thought of something funny. Yeah. Well, possibly you can decide that. Yeah, because this show was only going to last one season. That was the suspicion anyway. And in between, obviously it got picked up for a second season, and in between the first and second seasons, David Chase was surprised that that so much of the fan base was talking about pussy. Sorry. Yeah, what happened to pussy? That was a big loose end at the end of the first season, because every other loose end more or less was tied up. They kept that going, and yeah, that was the main storyline really of the second season, or one of them. So yes, episode 12, an even bigger episode really. Isabella, and the king. The king. King is in the quotation. Tony's quote is, "I'm like King Midas in reverse. Everything I touch turned to shit." And this is a screenshot of him going through his health problems as a result of all this stress, lying in bed, and that is the maid looking over him, the Polish maid, I believe, isn't she? Yeah. This is one of those one of these episodes I've watched quite a lot of, because sort of have this routine. I have had this routine where I watch episodes of The Sopranos while having a few swigs, shall we say. And yeah, this is one of the episodes I've often chosen to watch, and particularly the whole few minutes with the whole shot of him in the bathroom looking, fucked up, basically. It's Tony, that is. Yeah, interesting to watch when you're having a few swiggies. So what happens in this? Oh, this is the one where there's an assassination attempt, no less, isn't there, on Tony? Yeah. How did they miss? Actually, if we go to here, it isn't on here. Yeah, the whole attempt on his life that goes wrong. It strongly resembles a real life assassination attempt, shall we say? Yeah, a certain political figure a year or two back, even with the ear, and the ear being the only injury he got, and such like. Do they have it on here? No. Godfather reference, Cool Runnings reference. But obviously it'll be a hindsight thing, won't it? No, I guess they'd have it on trivia or whatever, wouldn't they? Actually, moral event arise and Junior ordering Donnie's death. Okay, that's the moral event horizon for him, according to whoever put that on. I mean, Donnie was not exactly a nice character, was he? He was, the guy who was overseeing the hit, or he was part of one of the layers of overseeing the hit on Tony. What have we got here? Oh yeah, obfuscating stupidity. Livia puts this trope into motion almost instantly. She hears the news that Tony survives the assassination attempt. She shows up at Tony's get well party and pretends that she doesn't recognise Meadow in order to feign the onset of dementia. The purpose is to try and throw off any suspicions of having anything to do with the botched job. Junior figures out what she's up to, and it causes him to get angry with her because he's worried that it will leave him holding the bag. Yeah, I don't think that was well thought out on her part, to be honest, although it kind of works, as it turns out. Yeah, it's funny, that whole scene with Junior and Livia watching the news, finding out about the news on the television. I mean, that's kind of I know they don't want to get on the phone because someone could be listening in or whatever. But it kind of reminds me of the scene there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer is running for garbage commissioner against the incumbent guy, or whatever his name is, and Homer finds out about the result of the election on the news, in a newspaper the next day. That's kind of similar, really, isn't it? You know, you thought you would have been closer tuned in than that, really, wouldn't you? But yeah, impairment shot when Tony takes his day's dose of Prozac and the newly prescribed lithium pills. The camera begins to tilt sideways as he sits down in the shower. Yeah, that's the scene I was talking about earlier. When I watch after with a few swiggies and sort of funny. Well, it's not funny, but peculiar. Yeah, so you have Harris coming in and offering witness protection and such like, which he never takes. That offer up in any point in the series. Yeah. We've got a Wham episode and Wham lines. Let's look through these. Wham episode is having sunk into a deep depression. Tony snaps out of it once he becomes the target of a hit placed by Uncle Junior, and his own mother barely surviving the attempt and killing one of his would-be assassins. That's really interesting, isn't it? That's a kind of... I mentioned in my previous episode that the fucking regularness of life is a huge theme in this show. And it's interesting that Tony getting an attempt on his life is what snaps him out of the deep depression, which might, at least in part, be caused by that aforementioned fucking regularness of life, Obviously the big pussy thing as well, but, that's interesting. I mean, I've had similar experiences. Well, no one's attempted to take my life or anything, but, when something big happens, when there's a big event on the news or something, an existential threat or something on the news, that kind of makes me more animated, makes me more interested in more interested in life in general, as it were. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So Wham line. Sorry, excuse me a minute. Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. I just interrupted a bit there. Yeah, when the Cusimano, so Wham line, when the Cusimano family returns from vacation, Tony asks Bruce what happened to Isabella. He has no idea what Tony's talking about, which leads Tony to the realisation he was hallucinating her. So Tony says, so where's your dental student? Bruce, where's my what? Yeah, I mean, that didn't seem like a genuine moment, did it? That seemed like a fucking dream, really, didn't it? It wasn't the Cusimano's actual dental student, was it? And here's the, we won't play this, but this is the Donny guy, and after the botched attempt hadn't taken place yet or something. Yeah, they're finding criminals, yeah. And he was making jokes, which he shouldn't do, really. Getting too close to the fire, too close to the sun, as it were. Anyway, season 1, episode 13, I Dream of Jeannie Cusimano. My favourite episode of the whole show, actually, probably. As may, it's not, I'm in a minority on that, but yeah, just so action-packed, and it almost reminded me of, it does remind me of a lot of the Blue Comet, where a lot of loose ends are tied up and there's so much action in it as well, Tony being held at gunpoint by Artie is one of the least memorable moments of this episode. That, I think, in my opinion, that shows just how good it is, how action-packed it is. So the quote is, "Someday soon you're going to have families of your own, and if you're lucky, you'll remember the little moments like this that were good." Tony Soprano. That's another line that certainly gets brought up later, a lot later. Yeah. So the screenshot is from that darkened Vesuvio's meal that they're all having after Tony and the family get back in from or basically take refuge there during a thunderstorm. So yeah. Bookends. Much like the pilot, part of the plot deals with Artie's involvement in a restaurant, Vesuvio in the pilot, and Vesuvio here. Yeah, that is its full name, isn't it? I assume Nuvio means new or something, yeah, in Italian. And the subject of the mystery arson that claimed the former. The episode also resolves the Father Phil plot line, which was set up in the pilot and college, and is finally dealt with by Carmela when she figures out his game and shames him with a devastating "the reason you suck" speech after he once again tries to seduce her. Yeah, that is. And we don't get as much as Father Phil after this season. Like, he just shows up as the priest rather than any potential love interest for Carmela or Rosalie. Yeah. Andy Dickinson, that's where he makes that line, Uncle June, isn't it? Yeah. Foreshadowing, yeah, his own. Yeah, we've mentioned this, the whole good moments line that Tony has. The other one is, during their bedroom talk, Carmela mentions to Tony that both of his sisters left Jersey when they were much younger and haven't been back in a long time. Yeah, that would change, at least for one of them, wouldn't it? Next season. The Reason You Suck speech, Father Phil by Carmela, that's very good. Yeah, Wham episode, this should summarise it, what I've said about this episode. Tony hears evidence that his uncle and mother conspired to have him whacked. Tony retaliates by having Junior's key men, Mikey Palmisi and Chucky Signore, murdered. Artie is informed that Tony was behind the arson attack at his restaurant and briefly holds Tony at gunpoint. Junior is arrested by the FBI. Olivia has a stroke just before Tony has the opportunity to smother her to death. Yeah. And there's also one or two other moments. I mean, obviously there's a Carmela Father Phil moment. There's also the whole... there's the Malfi stuff, you know, where Malfi says something objectionable to Tony, what he considers objectionable to Tony about his mother suffering from borderline personality disorder. Tony goes berserk and almost kills her, basically, and Malfi has to go on the run because he thinks there might be a hit out on her, and she goes out on the run and such like. Yeah, here it is, and related to that. Berserk button. Tony loses at Malfi's office after she tells Tony that Olivia has borderline personality disorder, describing it with symptoms that apply to him just as much. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that, actually. He's sort of hitting too close to his own home. Yeah, what else is there? There's also this is also one of the episodes I watch a lot with a few swigs, or have watched a lot with a few swigs, shall we say. The whole FBI story, the whole FBI with the... I think this is his first appearance, isn't it? The FBI chief, Frank, not for Cusimano, Frank someone, isn't it? Yeah, he's just so cold in that scene. You know, there's a videotape recording of the audio tape recording of cassette of Livia and Junior talking, and basically he's just snarling. He's so enjoying Tony listening to it, and basically destroying his lifelong perception of his uncle and his mother. There's a certain line, isn't there, about psychiatry and you know what, psychiatry and you know what, that Tony and Carmela discuss, and yeah, I can't do it justice by quoting it fully, so yeah, you probably know what I'm talking about if you know The Sopranos. Yeah, so this doesn't set up a lot for the second season at all, really, does it? Or the whole big pussy thing from a couple of 3 episodes before does set that up, but this is very much a tying up loose ends episode with a lot of action. You know, they weren't fully sure, as I've said, that they were going to come back for a second season. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all we've got to say about this. Just an episode I know so well. I could almost do a whole video on this, documenting this episode, why it's so good. Perhaps I'll do that if I'm not lazy enough, you know, for once or something. Yeah, but that's sums up, that concludes the first season of this rambling series, and third episode overall. I've got through 3 of these, so not too bad by my standards. Decent length, this video, over 25 minutes. So I'll be back for the 4th episode, which will be the first episode of the 2nd season, which is a title that looks like a joke, of course, start of a joke, you know. Guy walks into a psychiatrist's office. And there's that clip that I love of the Tony Mouthy scene, which I've talked about a lot in this episode, So I'll be back with season 2 in the next episode, and thank you for watching.